Hello and welcome to the Weekly Stuff Podcast with Jonathan Lack
and Sean Chapman.
We are here as always to talk about stuff, and for the first time in months,
yes,
we are here to talk about Doctor Who.
We are back, motherfucker.
We are
it's
back.
Time.
And man, so end of the show, we're going to talk about Doctor Who. That'll be our main topic today. We've got some other things to get to before then. We're going to talk about Destiny, the Taken King, the big Year 2 expansion for Destiny. We're going to talk about the Tokyo Game Show, some news involving Persona 5, and other whatever else interesting we want to talk about. It wasn't hugely momentous or anything, but there's things we can talk about.
Yep.
And then we'll get into Doctor Who. And that'll be our, if you're new to the podcast, we love Doctor Who.
Yes.
I've seen all of the new series and many episodes of the old one. Sean has seen every single Doctor Who episode ever made.
Yep. I've thrown this episode into my archive.
Yes.
It is official that Doctor Who has started again because I had to bring out my old hard drives and shit.
Nice. All right. So, I mean, how many gigabytes is that?
It's a lot. I think it's 200 something gigabytes because it's like half of a 500 gigabyte hard drive I have.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's a lot.
So we love Doctor Who, so it is a tradition. We've been doing this. It's actually, if I just say it, it's been season 7 and 8. I thought it was longer, but season 7 took so long to air. It actually goes back that far.
And we did a little bit on previous incarnations of this podcast. We did a little bit of season 6.
Yeah, we did, I think in chunks, season 6.
Yeah.
But for season 7 onwards, we've done episode by episode.
Yeah.
And actually, before then, I was writing about it episode by episode, and I just moved that over to the podcast. So it's fun. It's great. It's just a fun show to talk about. This season's going to be kind of interesting because they're doing a two-parter thing. But I actually kind of think that'll be fun to check in and just... I'm sure every other week we'll have more to say. Mm-hmm. But this week it'll be fun to do speculation and stuff.
Yeah.
So, in any case, that'll be a spoiler-filled discussion. We'll let you know before we get there. Spoiler-free... I'm just happy because I thought this was a fun episode. It was an energized episode, brilliantly directed, a lot of good writing, great performances. I had a lot of fun with it. Did you have fun with it?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think I maybe like it a little bit less than you because it's something that's weird talking about the first part of a two-parter without knowing how when Stephen Moffat tends to fall apart when he tries to bring things together for a conclusion in his writing. So that's who knows how this is going to wrap up, but it was a fun episode. I enjoyed it, definitely. Yeah,
and I thought it didn't have a lot of the pacing problems two-parters can have.
Yeah,
and generally, Stephen Moffat is good about that. He can pace a two-parter better sometimes. I just rewatched Death in Heaven over the weekend, and that's a terrible episode that is not paced well at all. But this was fun. So we'll talk about that more later. The Magician's Apprentice, first episode of Doctor Who Series 9. If you're not watching it, watch it.
Yes.
If you haven't started watching The 12th Doctor, he's phenomenal. Peter Capaldi is a god. Watch it.
Yeah. This is something we should say. This is a terrible episode to just start watching the show on, because you will have no fucking clue. This is one of the most dense episodes in terms of bringing back characters and references and stuff that I think I've ever seen New Who do. It's crazy.
I was pretty surprised by how heavy he leaned into lore, which I think the modern show generally avoids. So.
Yeah. They have the fucking Shadow Proclamation is back. That's shit we haven't seen since the Russell T Davis shit.
No, that's since last episode.
Yeah, but kind of.
Yeah.
There was some Jadoon. There was a Jadoon dude in the background. I was like, those guys on the show.
I like the Jadoon. They should do another Jadoon episode. Bring Russell T Davies back, and he can write a Jadoon episode. Yeah. That's perfect.
Yes.
Any case. So yes, we're going to talk about Doctor Who later. For now, let's see, are there any odds and ends unrelated to the other topics that you wanted to mention?
I don't think so.
Okay, I saw one movie.
Oh, you did?
I saw a movie. I've not seen a movie, I think, since July, which was Mission Impossible.
Right.
And I finally went and saw another movie this weekend because I finished writing this big chunk of my thesis, and I had gone home for a day or two to help my mom with something. Well, my mom has a new puppy, and puppies need care.
Yes.
And so I was helping the puppy out, and then someone else was going to come over and take care of the puppy for a little while. I'm like, I need to get away. I love this puppy, but she's peeing everywhere. And I just literally ran out of paper towels, and I'm stressed. So I'm going to go see a movie. So I went and see Black Mass.
Oh, right,
which is the Whitey Bulger movie.
Yeah, Johnny Depp.
With Johnny Depp. And
the movie that everyone's saying, oh yeah, Johnny Depp can act. He's an actor. He's not just a weird person that you film.
Yeah, and holy shit, he can act. This is a great performance. It's not just, great on a curve. It's a great performance. He really sinks into this role. I think it's more naturalistic and human than he's been in forever. maybe since Finding Neverland, if we want to go back that far. That's around the time of Pirates 1.
Yeah.
And naturalistic and human as a villain, but in a really compelling way. He's got a lot of makeup and prosthetics on in this, and I think it's a tiny bit distracting. Like, his hair doesn't move naturally or at all.
Right,
That's one of the things. Like, the movie takes place over a period of, 20 years, and that dude's hairline does not change. And that was slightly distracting. Other than that, though, he's great performance, and there's a shit ton of people in the movie, including Benedict Cumberbatch, who, Benedict Cumberbatch, good actor, he can do many things well, he cannot do a Boston accent.
Oh, jeez.
And look, I don't know why you hire Benedict Cumberbatch if you're not going to let him be British, because that's 70% of his appeal.
Yeah, did you not hear what his name is?
Yeah.
He's called Benedict Cumberbatch.
He's also playing Whitey Bulger's brother, and he looks, nothing like they have Johnny Depp made up to look like, but also they spent all this time making up Johnny Depp to look like something, and he's just Benedict Cumberbatch in no makeup or anything. So that was kind of weird. I kept forgetting they were brothers, even though that's a theme in the movie. But here was my lesson I learned.
Right.
Don't go on Twitter and make fun of Benedict Cumberbatch. Even if you did it like I did, which is just, I said I love the dude. He's a good actor. It's just, look, I can't do a Boston accent either, but whatever, it's we're having fun here. He's good in the movie. He just doesn't do a good accent. Whatever. He sounds like James Cagney impersonator, and I don't think James Cagney actually had that accent.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then I was people were like, no, he's perfect. That's exactly what a Southie from Boston looks like. Well, then why does he sound different than everyone else in the movie who have consistent accents? Never heard back from those people after that. Anyway.
Don't make fun of Benedict Cumberbatch on the internet. That's his territory. Sherlock fans have staked out portions of the internet. It's dangerous. It's dangerous to venture there.
It is very dangerous. But the movie as a whole, it's very good. I've seen a lot of mixed response to it. And I think that's because it's not a traditional gangster movie, and everyone is trying to push it into these blocks it's a Scorsese-style gangster movie, or it's an old-fashioned Warner Brothers kind of gangster movie. Those people have never seen a Scorsese movie or a Warner Brothers gangster movie. It's got nothing in common to the works of Martin Scorsese whatsoever. And I love Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
This is not it, and frankly, I wouldn't really want the Scorsese version of Whitey Bulger. Or if you were to do it, he kind of did, and that's The Departed.
Right, yeah.
But he did a very distinct kind of spin on it. But the way this was directed by Scott Cooper, and the way they kind of went about it is it's a very slow film, very somber, and I think it works to the film's effect because, again, it's covering 20 years of history, and unlike most historical films that do that, it does not feel rushed, it does not feel underdeveloped. It's very much kind of a character and tone piece, and I think it's good. It gets into the nitty-gritty of things. It never feels like it's going outside of realistic boundaries. You're never that probably didn't happen. You're that probably did happen, even if they're taking some artistic license with that. It's interesting.
Yeah.
And it's just full of some really great writing. There's this scene, and it's in the trailer, but it's much longer in the movie, where Whitey Bulger is at dinner with these FBI agents, and he gets the FBI agent to get nervous about divulging. He's like, it's a really interesting scene because he's I don't want to spoil it. I guess you'll see it in the trailer, but he's just kind of verbally drilling into this FBI agent and going further and further and further, and you're not sure how that scene is going to end, and it feels like it goes on for 5 minutes, and it's just fantastic. It's the best thing Johnny Depp has done in so long, and if you like Johnny Depp and you want to be reminded that he doesn't just do silly voices and prance around in costumes, watch this, because I guess he's kind of doing a silly voice, but it's in service of something. It's not in service of the Mad Hatter.
Yeah.
Or something shitty like that. So, hooray, Johnny Depp is back.
Hopefully he keeps on picking acting roles instead of cartoon people roles.
Yes, he's got enough money.
Yeah.
I mean, there is Pirates 5 coming out. So.
Oh, fuck, right.
Yeah.
They're still making those
They're
movies.
still making that.
Jesus.
And here's what I love is when they take an action star and make them do it past their prime. He also, happens all the time with this. He broke his ankle the first week of shooting, and they had to delay it for 6 months. That happened with Harrison Ford on Star Wars. That happened on... God, that happened on a bunch of movies lately. Yeah. There was another one like that where someone broke their... Oh, Iron Man 3. Robert Downey Jr. broke his leg, and they had to delay shooting and everything. So, yeah, maybe at a certain point... maybe in the next Bond film, we'll hear Daniel Craig broke his leg. Yeah. It's this is my last movie.
It's just fuck this shit. I'm 50 years old. I'm not fucking jumping around, prancing around, doing this bullshit.
Yeah. Anyway, there are movies, like, there's, like, at least it looks like one movie that I'm interested in seeing from, like, here to the end of the year, so I'll see if I can keep on that. The one I'm really looking forward to right now, the next one, is The Martian by Ridley Scott with Matt Damon. And I just read the book over, like, 2 days. That's a fantastic book. Cool. It is hard science fiction in the best way, in that it is all science. It's this guy is abandoned on Mars, and he's like, all right, what do I need to do to survive? And so he has to break it down into a series of problems, and each problem has a scientific solution, and he figures it out. Nice. And if you like that kind of stuff, it is candy. It is so great.
Cool.
And fun book, and I'm excited for the movie, too. And Ridley Scott, another person who has not done anything good in a really long time. So,
yeah.
Shooting Prometheus 2 in February.
I keep on seeing, like, headlines about, like, stuff happening with Prometheus 2, and every time I see it's like, why? Like, fucking why even bother, man? Like, what is that movie going to... Like, what the fuck is Prometheus 2 going to be?
Ridley Scott, I think, is one of the weirdest American directors ever, because if you just took his best movies, Alien, Blade Runner, Kingdom of Heaven, all of those, and you put them together, you'd say, this is a great director.
Yeah.
One of the great commercial directors of this era of cinema. And if you took all of his worst movies, you'd say, this guy is a hack.
Yeah.
He kind of has nice visuals, but good God, Prometheus is awful.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And I can't really think of any other directors like that.
Yeah, it's really hit or miss. And I'm just like, what the fuck would Prometheus 2 be?
I hope it's Michael Fassbender still has no body.
Yeah.
And he's just a head for that whole movie.
But that's the whole point, is that, like, all the characters died. There's, like, no real plot. There's nothing to do. Like, there's no reason to have a Prometheus 2. Just give up. Just fucking make something else. You'll make your fucking Blade Runner prequel or whatever the fucking other shit they're doing.
They have someone else directing that.
Yeah.
Dennis Villeneuve, who's a really good director who I don't want his career to be ruined by Blade Runner 2.
Yeah.
He's promising. Don't make him do that. Anyway. I wonder what bones Harrison Ford can break on that film.
Yeah.
Poor guy. All right, how do we want to hit this? Why don't we do Tokyo Game Show first?
Okay.
News stuff.
Go ahead.
Before we just blow our load with Persona shit, what other stuff happened at the Tokyo Game Show?
Honestly, there really wasn't that much.
No.
Like I didn't see any big headlines. Like, there are a couple of small games. Like, I saw a trailer for the Attack on Titan game, which that's based on an anime. That trailer actually looks pretty good. Like, I have no idea if that game will ever come out over here, or if the game will actually be good. But that would be a good video game. Like if you've ever seen the Attack on Titan anime, which is very good, it's a good property to base a video game off of, so I want them to make it good. Other than that, like, Japan... Like, I feel like Japan's gaming scene has been changing a lot, and it's definitely not like where it was, like, 15 years ago when, like, everything big was coming out of Japan. Now, Japan's mostly focused on mobile stuff, and that's not really appealing to me, or that stuff doesn't even really come out over here, regardless.
Yeah, I thought the Tokyo Game Show this year was a lot of... All the big news was about games we've known about forever, that are still in progress, that are still a ways off, and that frankly includes Persona 5, which we love, but there was that. Final Fantasy 15 we heard a little bit more about.
Yeah.
I think someone said something about Kingdom Hearts, maybe.
Yeah, there's some, like, Kingdom Hearts 2.8.
That was funny.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was called.
They're getting fucking desperate, and that's, I think, a remaster of one of the weird 3DS games.
I think it's like a whole bunch of them. I think it's like it has an HD remake of 2, and then, like, Dream Drop Distance. Is that one of them?
That's one of them.
Is that, am I right? Like,
I'm looking
Kingdom
this up.
Heart game names are so fucking terrible and impossible to remember.
I love this. I searched just Kingdom Hearts 2.8, and the first Google result was a article on Wired called "What the heck is Kingdom Hearts 2.8?" All right, it's an HD remaster of the Nintendo 3DS game Dream Drop Distance. You were correct.
Yes. I can't believe I remembered that name.
It includes back cover, a collection of cutscenes from a Japan-only browser game called Unchained X.
It's called a back cover?
Yeah, and then the new stuff, a playable epilogue to Birth by Sleep, which is the PSP game.
Called Birth by Sleep 0.2 hyphen a fragmentary passage. What the fuck does that mean? What do you mean Birth by Sleep .2? Like, why not call it, like, Birth by Sleep Prologue? Like, what the fuck does .2 mean? Do you put the there's the .2, if you play Birth by Sleep .2, and then play all the rest of Kingdom Hearts 2.8, does that then make Kingdom Hearts 3? Is that what they're saying? Like, where the fuck did they pull these numbers out of?
Yeah, I don't know. And no, so it does not include any of the big games, like 2.
It does not? Okay.
No, because this is a sequel...
Forgive me for thinking that the thing called Kingdom Hearts 2.8 had Kingdom Hearts 2.
Because remember, they did 1.5 and 2.5 for the PS3. Yeah,
no, I don't.
They were collections that came out for the PS3 last year and the year before, and they included 1 and then a couple of games, and then 2 and a couple of games, and this will mean all of the games have come out in either remastered form or cutscene form on the PS3. So
I guess that solves the problem for being a Kingdom Hearts fan, where like all the games came out on like every different platform imaginable. Yeah. So like if you wanted to play all of them, you'd have to fucking drive yourself insane. Yes. And like I have to get like a DS and a PSP and a 3DS and Vita and PS2 and all this
and
fucking
cell
shit.
Phones from Japan.
Yeah. Import like old cool cell phones from Japan before smartphones just like homogenized the entire cell phone market.
Yeah. So Kingdom Hearts 2.8.
Whatever the fuck that means.
Kingdom Hearts 3 might exist one day.
Like, it's such a fucking joke at this point. It's just like, it's like, you know, I've never really cared about the Kingdom Hearts franchise, but like my heart goes out to Kingdom Hearts fans who have been waiting forever for Kingdom Hearts 3. And it's like, you fucking put out this thing called Kingdom Hearts 2.8, you fucking cocksuckers. Like, just put out Kingdom Hearts 3. Stop it. Just stop teasing everyone. Putting out your fucking, like, decimal place. Like, the part where it's going to become equally hilarious is when they go down to, like, the hundredths, like Kingdom Hearts 2.07. It's like, I don't know what that is, but here you go.
So Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 had, like, a gap of, like, 3 years. 2 and 3 will have a gap of, like, 20 years.
Yeah.
If they exponentially increase that again for 4, how far can we get that down for Kingdom Hearts 3.0.6.2 or whatever? Yeah. It's going to be great. No, see, we are blessed, though, Sean.
Yeah.
Because we are Persona fans.
Yes.
And as Persona fans...
we are the chosen.
We are the chosen. We are, between games, we are blessed with a string of exemplary spin-off titles, of outstanding anime and manga and films. And the big event, Persona 5, it was delayed, but it just looks better and better and better every fucking day.
Yes.
So let's get into the main attraction here. Persona 5, delayed until the summer of 2016. No exact date. Maybe longer. Who knows? We'll find out next year. But with that, we got a new trailer.
Yeah, like a solid 3-minute trailer. Like, it's a beefy trailer.
Oh, yeah. And it is hard to be mad about that delay when you look at that trailer and you're just like, you guys take your time.
It's something where it's like I just, like, when I finished that trailer, I was thinking to myself, like, there is, like, this trailer for this game has, like, a more interesting and consistent thematic development than most video games have. And that's not a fucking joke. No. Like, that is straight up serious. Like, you just watch the trailer and you know that they did it. Like, you can just see that and you know, like, I have pure confidence that, like, the stylistic trends that Persona 3 and Persona 4 had in terms of, like, how they tell their stories and how they just, like, develop their themes to a point that, like, almost nothing else is able to rival. Like, that is absolutely seems like it's continuing with 5, with its themes of, like, trying to find yourself in society in the ways that modern society sort of, like, destroys the individual, you know? Like, that is seeped into the trailer. Like, it's so well done.
It is. And it just... We said this when the last trailer came out, the one with what we now know to be the game's theme song.
Yeah.
The one from around E3 time. And... there was just, we thought, there's more style visually and in the menus and shit than most games.
Yeah, because like half of that trailer was just like sliding through the menus and like
showing how cool they are.
Yeah.
And I think this trailer just shows more of that and how cool it all looks, that they're jumping into paintings.
Yeah.
The first use of running down a pyramid. I have no idea how that's going to fit into things.
Yeah, that's like, you're just looking at it as like, it's like, did they go on a school trip to Egypt, or is this like crazy like shadow pyramids? Like, how the fuck did they get onto the pyramids?
And they have animated cutscenes that look better than most TV animes I've ever seen. You know, and the animated cutscenes in 3 and 4 were no slouch.
Yeah.
But this is a step up from that even. And it's just holy crap, all of it. And the thing is, as we say this, it's still like, the more I see this game, the less I feel like I know what it's going to be like as a game, but the more I'm confident it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how all these pieces are going to fit, what exactly it's going to play like, and I'm excited by that. Yeah. It looks really big, but true to what Persona is.
Yeah, I like the brief glimpses you get of, like, what I assume to be, like, the daily life parts of the game, where it's like you see the main guy at, like, a batting ring, you see him, like, doing some karate thing with, like, that karate thing with like the wood poles that
Yeah.
stick out that he's hitting. It's like it makes you sound like, oh yeah, like because you know when you think about Persona, I think like most of the time what the more flashy parts of it jump to your mind of like, oh, the big boss fights and like going into the dungeons and the story moments and stuff. But then you forget is like those games are made by like all those moments in between where you're like, man, I need to fucking like Nanako is asking me some fucking question about platypuses that I need to remember. Like, how do I like it's all that stuff of like, and I'm in the middle of class and the teacher's asking me about like what is the largest mountain in the fucking solar system, and I know that it's Mount Olympus, Mons Olympus on fucking Mars because I like that shit. It's like it's those moments that like make a Persona game. I like you get like brief glimpses of what again I have to assume are like how this game is going to present them.
Yeah, it's tough to be mad about the delay because it'll only make for a better game. If anything, this fall was too too cramped with games and everything, and this will give us more time to appreciate it. But at the same time, I look at that trailer and it's like, I want to drop everything. I want to give them all my money, and I want to go live in Tokyo and play Persona 5.
I just want to live Persona 5 because that's how you have to play. I just want to live it, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I'm glad that it got delayed just because, like, one because Fallout 4 is still coming out in November, and that's like that game's going to be really huge and take a long time to play through. And then I also just at the end of the year, I don't want to have to fight with myself about like Persona 5 and Witcher 3. Like right now, I want Witcher 3 to like it's so fucking good. Like Fallout 4 might be better than it, but that seems unlikely to me based on like having played like all the Bethesda game software games up to this point. This Witcher 3 deserves to be Game of the Year so much. It would be tragic. It would be fucking tragic for it to get knocked out because Persona. There's nothing else could possibly compete with Persona 5. It's like let other games have a little bit of glory.
It's like when Daniel Day-Lewis comes out and does a performance. You're like, well, he has to win the Oscar.
Yeah, it's like it's such a shame because all these other people, they're so good. It's like I want to recognize you so much. Like I want to give you this reward so bad because it's like you've done so much. It's like you have like revolutionized parts of like how I think open world games play. It's like, but there's no way you're gonna beat Persona 5. Like
right.
Fucking nothing can.
Yeah, it could conceivably be the greatest game ever made. If it's on the level of 3 and 4.
Exactly.
And that's not hyperbole because I do think 3 and 4 are the greatest games ever made.
Yeah. Like, and I think, obviously I agree with that.
And we can back that up pretty fucking easily.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Who knows? No, it's definitely something where they had been so mum on whether or not they were moving the date, even though it seemed increasingly likely there's no fucking way this is coming out in 2015.
It was like a week and a half ago, I think was probably the last time that Atlas USA like still was insisting. It's like, no, it's coming out this year. And every time I saw that, it's like, yeah, sure. Like,
but I was getting used to the idea, like, maybe they just have a plan. And maybe we're going to hear something about it. Maybe they know something we didn't. So I still had this part of my brain that was like, well, what if... And then it was kind of dashed by that. I'm like, okay, this makes more sense. This is probably better overall, but God, do I want to play this game.
I bet it was something that, like, the localization stuff is probably, like, on track to be done.
Yeah.
As what I imagine what that is. Because it was Atlas USA consistently saying, it's like, nope, it's coming out this year. So I bet they're just, like, ready to push it out as, like, the localization, like, the USA version as quickly as possible.
I think it'll be a global release or near a global release. I doubt it'll be even a multiple-month gap. Like, a lot of people were saying, oh, does this mean we won't get it until 2017? I think they know the capital that Persona has at this point. And
I suspect it'll probably be... it'll probably be, like, a couple of weeks difference, is my guess.
Yeah, and even with the, small windows we've gotten with, like, Dancing All Night, I think that's going to shrink and shrink because people are psyched for Persona 5. And
Yeah, and I imagine because each main Persona game has made, like, so much headway that Persona 4 The Golden in particular, like, really blazed the path for, like just through, like, word of mouth. So many people got that game that's, like, it's still, like, the one game on the Vita that's, like, people bought the Vita to play this game,
I did.
Yeah, I basically did, too. So, I think, like, Persona 5 is Atlas USA's and Atlas's chance to, like, really bring that franchise over here in a way that's like not just a niche thing anymore. Like I think it does have a chance to sort of break out into like a broader consciousness over here in the West.
Yeah. And hey, if you don't own a PlayStation Vita, you don't have a ton of money to spend on it, but you do have a PS3, this weekend flash sale, Persona 4, the PS2 version is $2. There are worse ways to spend $2.
There are way worse ways to... Yeah, like...
Is there a better way to spend $2?
Probably not. Like,
No.
legitimately, I don't think so.
Like, the Golden is obviously better, but I get if you don't want to buy a Vita.
Yeah, and then you get to play Persona 4 the right way, which is to play Persona 4 and then play the Golden, so that way you can always appreciate how weird original Chie was.
Nice.
Yeah. I still miss old Chie.
I bought PS2 classic version of Persona 4 just so I had it on my PS3. I doubt I'll ever actually play that version just because it'd be bizarre.
Yeah, it'd be hard to go back to.
But I'm glad I have it just sitting on there. Because I can launch up the original opening and menu and just be like, that shit looks cool.
God, yeah, dude, fucking, yeah. Persona's so good. Persona's so fucking good.
So fucking good. And if you like the new Persona 5 trailer, you want more, they did release a video of the recording of the theme song. It's a fantastic song. Sean's not watching it. You want to see it?
Yeah, I'll probably end up watching it before the game comes out, but there was something that, like, I was, like, about to click on the link, and something stopped me of just, like...
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it was, like, this, like, weird precipice of, like, I feel like if I watch this video, I'm just going to start playing Persona 4 the Golden. I can't do that. Like, I can't be making this jump right now. Like, that would be fucking insane.
Yeah. I know. I know where you're feeling.
The music is just such a huge part of those games. It's like,
why
I can't watch this theme song right now.
It's why I honestly don't listen to Persona music as much as I would like to, because it makes me nostalgic and want to play the games. Yeah, it's dangerous.
Yeah, it's really dangerous.
Yeah. But hey,
Persona carries a great power within it. It's like it can make lives so much more enriched, and it can just fucking destroy lives if you're not careful with it.
Hey, look, my replay of Persona 4 the Golden, which I have not done yet, that's going to be my reward to myself for graduating at the end of this year. I will walk off that stage. My Vita will be in my pocket, and I will sit back down.
You will just sit down, and you will not move. Like, your family will come up to you, it's like, Jonathan, what are you doing? You'll be completely non-responsive. You'll just be muttering Chie under your breath.
People are throwing bodies into the TV. You don't get it, Mom.
Like, I have to save them. They're my friends. Have you seen how hot Yukiko is in those glasses? God damn it.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on to domestic gaming news.
Yes.
With Destiny the Taken King, which according to the most hilariously worded Activision statement is the number one of certain things.
Yeah, it's just like...
If you haven't read it, go read it. It's a hilarious press release. The only concrete statistic was number one new PS4 downloads, which even then is so specific.
It's just like, it's just like a hard statistic to wrap your mind around, like what that exactly means.
So anyway, it's successful, I guess, is the bottom line.
It's really fucking good.
It's so good.
The bottom line.
It is so good. I think I feel spoiled playing the Taken King.
Yeah.
Because it's like they looked at every possible complaint reasonable people could have had about Destiny, vanilla Destiny, and said, we can do that. We can do this better.
We have Nathan Fillion. We can do this.
Oh, God, I mean, I don't even know where to start. It's just like the cutscenes are big and beautiful and cinematic. It looks like...
And they have, like, character to them.
They have character to them. It's Bungie being funny again.
Yeah.
Which, the Halo games are not a laugh riot, but they're funny.
Yeah, they have a sense of humor.
They do, and Destiny had none of that. And now, I was laughing consistently. There are jokes being told, and they feel like an organic part of the universe. And there are characters being built. They're not the deepest characters in the world, but they're characters.
Yeah.
And the missions have variety and scope and an incredible amount of challenge. And then there's actually a real heft to that main quest line you do, and you feel like that was worth it. That was a lot of missions. I feel like I played a lot. And then you get through that and you're like, oh shit, I'm never going to finish this. There's so much
still
stuff to
way
do.
More stuff after you finish the story part.
It is like the absolute opposite of vanilla Destiny, where it felt kind of like a slog and like a grind and like I've seen everything, I'm just replaying over and over. Now it's like overwhelming in the amount of stuff to do, the amount of new material to get, the amount of just fun you can have with it.
Yeah. It's really, really, really well done.
Yeah.
Like, it's basically... and it's one of the things that, like, Destiny is just such a fascinating game. Like, I thought that when it came out, and I think it continues to be. When it came out, it was fascinating in a way of, like, this thing is extremely flawed, but so much of it is so good and it has so much potential. And it's still fascinating in the sense of, like, I think it is executed on so much of its potential with the Taken King and how they've reworked so much of the game and just made it so much better kind of in every single aspect. But then it, like, also just brings to light how unique Destiny is of an experience and as a product. That there's no game like it. Like, there's no other... There's just nothing like it. Like, there's no other game in the market that's even close to, like, what Destiny provides as an experience. Like, the way that it sort of bridges, like, the MMO genre and the first-person shooter is so completely unique. And now it feels like that's not necessarily a detriment all the time, in a way that, like, in vanilla Destiny, a lot of times it felt like those aspects of the game were clashing, and it was like, all, like, the rep systems didn't make sense, and you had 5,000 different currencies, and I don't know what fucking any of them do, and it feels like everything is such a grind. Everything feels like trying to get loot. It takes forever, and what you get is so randomized that I have no idea if I'm going to actually be able to progress my character. And now it feels like that sort of, like, loot progression system and all that stuff, and all, like, the currencies and the reputation systems feel like they make sense to me in a way that's like, when I'm playing the game, I feel like I am progressing my character. I feel I have a variety of different tasks that I can pursue at any time that will all, like, benefit me in some very tangible way. That's like... And then the shooting is still amazing the way that it has always been. So it just feels like the systems of Destiny have locked in place in a way that, like, the game feels whole in a way that it never did before.
Yeah.
So good.
It's so good. It's like... and I feel like everyone's on the same page this time. Like, last year there was so much controversy this time of the year around who liked Destiny, who hated it, who was on the fence, and understandably on the fence.
Yeah.
But, like, everyone was split in 1,000 directions. Now it's just like, it's like assaulting you with fun.
Yeah.
It really is. You get that, like, first cutscene, and you're like, oh god, they're, like, issuing a challenge to Blizzard with this.
Yeah, like, the cutscenes are so well directed.
Yeah. And it's like, I didn't think I would ever really care about Destiny cutscenes, because A, I don't really care about cutscenes in general in video games, and B, Destiny's cutscenes are atrocious in the original version.
Yeah.
And these are so much fun, and then you get on the ground and are playing, and it's all new environments. And even when you're in an old environment, they're extending it and using it in different ways, and you're getting all these new guns, and you're happy to get rid of your old guns because it's fun to start that whole system over again.
Yeah, and, like, the fucking new weapon models and shit look fucking crazy.
Yes.
Like, some of those guns are just, like, nuts.
Yeah. It's almost like I was playing this at certain points thinking, like, it's almost like they went overboard.
Yeah.
With how... Because they didn't need to do this much to get people back on board. But they swung so hard for the fences with this, and it shows through. It's just... It feels like a passion project. Like, it doesn't feel like Bungie suffering under the weight of ambition and kind of confused goals. It feels like Bungie having a celebration within this world they've built, which I think at its best is what Halo was, too.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like, we've built mechanics and a foundation that we can do so much with, and now we're going to go to town on it. And in Taken King, they fucking go to town.
Yeah. And there's also just an element of it that's so gratifying of, like, having stuck with Destiny this whole time, of, like, just watching the game grow up and sort of, like, figure out what it is. That's like, when you get here, it's just like, yes, like, finally... And then, like, you just get these weird reminders of, like, I have, like, one Ascendant shard in my inventory that, like, I just have there sitting, and, like, I look at that every now and then. It's like, remember you, Ascendant shard? Remember that fucking bullshit, like, way back in the day in Destiny, where it's like, I had to grind, like, so much bullshit to try to upgrade my gear and get all these fucking Ascendant shards, and now it's like, nope, don't need them. I just, like, you can convert them all into fucking motes of light and move on with your life, because, like, who needs these fucking Ascendant bullshit? Like, I got my first, new exotic this morning, and, like, the exotic power on my gun just is, like, already there. Like, I don't need to grind for, like, 5 hours to get enough experience on the gun to unlock the cool thing that makes the gun an exotic gun. It just, like, that's just there.
Yep, I bought an exotic helmet from Xur today, and it gives me 2 melees instead of 1, and I just have it, and it's great.
Yeah, and you don't have to just like... I remember when I got my first exotic in Vanilla Destiny, I got, like, I think it was the Knucklehead Radar, which is a helmet for you, the hunter, that makes it so when you aim your gun, the radar is always on the screen. But, like, by the time I had unlocked the ability that is actually there, I was basically done playing Destiny, because it took, like, 4 hours of playing the game to get that much experience. And it's like, now when I get a cool thing, I can just use the cool thing and it's cool.
Yeah, and this is something we talked a little bit last week about, just the general 2.0 update.
Yeah.
But, like, the core of the game hasn't changed.
Yeah.
The shooting mechanics, the movement mechanics, even they have the new subclasses, but they pertain to the existing gameplay systems. They don't radically shift that or anything. that's always been the same, and it's just all the surrounding stuff they've changed. And yet, playing Taken King, and I have put in so much time to Destiny. I have played more of Destiny than any other new game in years, certainly on this console generation. And yet, it felt like I was playing a new game, and I was just eager to keep playing with it. I didn't feel fatigued or bored, and I still have a shit ton of stuff to do, and I'm excited to get to it. That's incredible, and it just feels like... And especially, I think, it makes those core mechanics that I've spent so much time with look even better now, because when you put them in a context that is as good as they are, oh my god, it just makes it feel even more satisfying, and all of that was already so well done and satisfying.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, if you look at, like, this in Metal Gear Solid 5, like, I think it, like... It puts into context how important, like, the sort of, like, the ancillary aspects of a game are. That's, like, the core gameplay needs to be really good. Like, as long as it's a game that relies on gameplay. Like, if it's a super narrative-driven game, the gameplay can be kind of and still be fine. But, like, for an action-based game, the gameplay needs to be really good. But, like, with how complex games are nowadays, like, that alone is not enough. Like, you need... like a larger context. You need like some sort of story or a world that makes sense, that gives purpose to what you're doing. It's like you need some sort of like progression factors and stuff like that to sort of make continue to allow the gameplay to evolve and stuff like that. And in Destiny the Taken King shows how, like, through great effort and great revision, Destiny has gotten to a place where, like, those ancillary factors now support the game and make the game so much better. Whereas with Metal Gear Solid 5, all those ancillary factors over time dragged that game down to the point where, like, even though I loved the gameplay, I hated the game, you know?
Yeah, it's like, for me, the ultimate example of that will always be Final Fantasy XIII.
Sure,
a game where I adore the battle system in that game. I think it is an act of brilliance when you get all the things together. I think that is a brilliant RPG battle system. And yet, I can't finish that game because everything around it is a slog and a little kid whining about his mother.
Yeah.
Troy Baker can't save that game.
That's a tragic scenario you were in if Troy Baker can't come in and fix things up.
Yes.
But I mean, well, in this, like, we didn't get Troy Baker coming in and fixing things up, but we got the granddaddy. We got Nolan North coming in. And I have to say, like, I really liked his version of Ghost in the old content that he revised and over-voiced Dinklebot.
Yeah.
But this, like, the writing across the board is so much better that it, like, you really see his performance come through. I mean, even that's, like, the first thing that happens with the DLC is you get that first cutscene where he's talking to you. It's actually, like, a really sweet little moment you have where he's talking about how he looked for you for centuries, because that was, like, his whole purpose, was to find his guardian. And it was like, he was like, then I looked for you and watched all these other ghosts finding their guardians. Like, there was almost like a weird high school thing about, like, I saw all these other people, like, hooking up. I was like, where's my cool fucking hunter guy? And it was like, and then I found you. And it was like, yeah. And then we, like, did all this grinding and bullshit, and we killed Sepix Prime maybe 50 times. It's like we did that, there was that one time where you kept on going into the Strikes playlist, and you kept on getting that fucking Nexus Venus one over and over and over again until you wanted to kill yourself. And then now we're here, and it's all awesome. And then here's this really cool, like, space cutscene.
Yes, I agree completely. Like, they clearly, Nolan North built his performance around this content, not the old stuff. Like, it almost feels like he recorded all of this first.
Yeah, and then you go back, then he had to go back and just, like, how are you supposed to say this line? Like, this line is just awkward. Like, some of that old writing, like...
It's in the walls.
Yeah.
It's in the walls. It is in the walls.
Yeah, it's like, I'm tracking the sword by the light of the guardians it's killed. It's like, what am I even saying? What is this line?
And, you know, it's not to say that they've gotten rid of the technobabble. It's still there in full force, but they've just, you know, tweaked it to make it part of the characters.
Yeah,
it's part of the fun.
It's not really awkward the way it used to be. Yeah, like, it just fits in better.
And the game, like, all the dialogue, it becomes very self-referential, but never in a way that I think distracts. Like, there's all this stuff where Nathan Fillion, Cade, is just constantly making fun of Eris Morn.
Which is so good.
But it works because I think if you look at that writing, it's actually a great example of how you can undercut a character kind of without undercutting the character. Because, like, Eris is still a part of the universe and becomes a much more interesting character than she was in The Dark Below. But they have fun with her. Like, they're aware of what kind of trope she fits into. But at the same time, I'm excited to see more of her, and there are hints, obviously, in the story. but where Eris Morn might be going.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like they've ruined her as a character by having Nathan Fillion make fun of her.
Yeah, it's just like they're able to be very serious when they need to be serious, but they're also able to just have fun with it.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like Han Solo in Star Wars, you know.
Exactly.
It's like he's able to undercut all the mystical Jedi shit and make fun of it without making it then feel like once you get to like a really heavy Jedi scene that's dealing with all the mystical bullshit, that it's like that's the power of that stuff's not necessarily sapped by then being able to like have fun with Han Solo, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the banter between Cade and Eris Morn in particular is where the game really shines, just because they, again, like, it's two characters that, like, had, like with all of Destiny, like, had, like, this suggestion that there was, like, a story there and there were some characters there, but never really dug into, you know? Like, since, like, and for a long time your main was a hunter, and my main has always been a hunter. Like, you'd be going back to Cade. I always let every once in a while he would have that line which is like, take me with you. And it's like, I want to take you with me, Nathan Fillion. Like, I don't even know why they hired you, because you say like 5 lines in this game. And then with Eris Morn, you know, you get all that stuff in the Dark Below missions where she's just like talking about like all this like really high, insane, fucking philosophical, mystical space nonsense. And then having those two personalities be fleshed out and then allowing them to clash is really fun, and it adds a little bit of personality to the missions that just makes it so much more fun to just like go on and have these voices in your ear that like feel like people to you now. It's even something where when I was playing the Strike playlist, like I was going into some of the old strikes, and like Cade introduces one of the old strikes, and I like did not remember.
Yes.
Because it's like, how would I have remembered? Because he wasn't a character before, and he's talking to me about like all the shit I'm going to do on Mars and like this strike, and I'm like, oh, like I know who you are now. Like, you're not just Nathan Fillion saying something to me. It's like, this is a character. And, like, I almost didn't realize that I was going back into a strike from the original game, because I was like, oh, Nathan Fillion didn't say this many lines in this game. Like, I just remember him being the dude you like run up to. I never made the fucking association, you know?
And I just love that they brought back all of the 3 Vanguard actors and used them all really well. So Nathan Fillion obviously is the star of the show, and with good reason. He's the one he's the dynamic, he's the funny one. So, but then I think they used Zavala and Warlock, Ikara. I remember their names now. I never remembered their names. Yeah, Ikora Ray, and they used them really well. So that's Gina Torres and Lieutenant Daniels from The Wire. I know his name, but now I'm forgetting it. Anyway, Lieutenant Daniels from The Wire. He's great. And, but, you know, so they have those people, and I think they use them really well. So, like, Lieutenant Daniels has this great authoritative voice.
Yeah.
And so he is, but they still let him make jokes sometimes. Yeah. And he's great as Zavala. But then with Ikora, Gina Torres has such this, like, regal, beautiful voice.
Yeah.
They give her some of the high fantasy stuff to say, and out of her mouth, it's great.
Yeah.
Because she can really work that.
Mm-hmm.
So they really just know the strengths of their 3 actors there. They play off each other so well in the campaign. I kind of want to go through it again as a different class to see if those things switch. Because I played as a Titan, and it's mostly Zavala and Cade. I wonder if you get more Ikora playing as a Warlock.
I mean, you get those, like, subclass missions that are unique for each class.
Yeah. But it's, all of that is so much fun. It really feels like they have a pretty dynamic voice cast at this point. And a lot of them were people, you know, those Vanguard people were there all the time.
Yeah, exactly. That was like with like the Nathan Fillion thing. It's true of like, like that's true of a lot of the missions and strikes and stuff of the original game. And something that you realize, these people have known what they were doing, like the voice actors have known what they were doing all along. They have always been giving a good performance. It's just like, you never had the context to even recognize that. That now it's like, just like laying that basic foundation of like making them characters, you're like, yeah, I know who you are. Like, even if this line now that I'm hearing from the old content is completely removed from all the character development they did in the future, like, the characters are consistent and their performances are consistent in a way that's impressive.
Yeah, definitely. And just the overall story, like, because here's the thing. When Destiny came out last year and we were talking about it, we had lots of problems with the game, but I think one thing we were saying is we didn't quite agree with how people were complaining about the story. Yeah. Because, yes, if you take Destiny and pretend it's Halo, that story pales. Destiny is not trying to be Halo, and it's still not trying to be Halo. Yeah. It's not trying to be like a lot of video game stories, frankly. It is still completely pulp. It's very lightweight. It's all, you know, sugar and candy, basically. Yeah. But now it's doing it. I think it's doing what it was always trying to do better, which is still a fairly minimalist story. It's never going to get in the way of just playing the game and enjoying it.
Yeah.
but now there's a context, so, you know, when you shoot your gun and are having fun, you have something to kind of keep that fun alive, which is what a good story like this should do.
Yeah, and it just, like, helps do what I think Destiny always did really well, which was just, like, the art direction and stuff created such a fascinating world to live in.
Yeah.
That's, like, having some characters just, like, flesh that out makes a really big difference, and it brings a lot of personality to it that just was not really there before.
Absolutely. It reminds me, not in like a qualitative jump, but the way they approach this of Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls.
Yeah.
Of like, they introduce this new big bad and have some great cutscenes with him, and then your goal is to, you know, go stop him. And they took a lot of cues from Blizzard with this one.
Yeah, it's just like, because with the expansion, like, you're able to tell this new story and just kind of ignore the fact that the vanilla Destiny kind of just had no story. And it makes me really curious for someone that, like, starts Destiny with, like, the Taken King stuff in there, of, like, what is your perspective on what is effectively just the first half of the game, you know? Because the way they've altered the level progression is that you're basically just like railroaded through the early stuff because you're not forced to do probably about half of the original story missions in the game of like stuff that was not critical to the Black Garden aspect of it. So it's like, you know, you don't have to go to the Fallen Archive mission on Venus and stuff like that because that has fucking nothing to do with anything. Like, there's no story reason to go do it. Like, the mission still exists, and I assume it'll, like, be rolled into, like, daily heroics and stuff like that. But they just push you through the, like, the mainline Black Garden stuff of the original game, and then by the time you'd finish that, you're basically in line to just, like, be level 25 and head into the Taken King stuff, which is then where all the real story content is. Like, it must be just a weird... It's a good time to jump into the game, because you can, as I said, like, you can blow through the early stuff that's kind of crap and doesn't make sense in terms of story and get to the really interesting Taken King stuff and then get into the end game, which the end game here is also like vastly improved over how it was structured originally.
Yeah, let's talk about the end game.
All right.
Because I did not know going into this like how many strikes they added, for instance. I thought it was maybe one or two because that's what the other expansions did. Yeah. So I played one strike and I was like, it was all right. And then I went back to the tower and I unlocked like 4 more.
Yeah.
And I'm still unlocked. How many strikes did they add?
I think there's 4 strikes, I want to say.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And if you're playing the Xbox version, because they added the PS4 exclusives, they've literally doubled the number of strikes.
Yeah.
I think more than doubled them. Because there were previously only 5 or 6, and now you've got the original PS4 ones also.
Yeah.
So you've got, suddenly the strikes have just gone through the roof. You've got all of them.
Yeah, and I think all the new strikes are the best strikes in the game. Like, I feel like they've made, at least like the boss fights do not feel like they are just like a big version of an enemy you've already seen that you just have to shoot in the face a bunch. Like, they've added mechanics to the boss fights that, like, feel different, you know?
Yeah, I like most of the strikes. There's the one where you go inside Rasputin. I think that one's a little annoying. I think it's not the best one, but it's good. But the other ones, they're great. They're fun. I always, the strikes were always my favorite part of Destiny, and I still have a lot of affection for a lot of those early ones. And I think in some ways these improve along the same lines the other ones frankly have. But I'm glad they're all together now, and I can go into a strike playlist, and I would be happy to go from the Nexus one again. And because I know I'm not going to see the Nexus one 5 times today.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there are 6 others in here.
There is not like a 15% chance that I'm going to get this strike. Like, there's like a 5% chance. Like, it's a big difference.
So they've added all these strikes. They've added a whole new area, which is the Dreadnought, most of which you don't explore until the end game.
Yeah.
Which is cool. They've added a bunch of story mission lines that I still have like 3 of them where I'm in the middle of them. And they're all like, they're very challenging.
They like put a bunch of, it's interesting because like, the going through like the main storyline was basically like once you come out the other end of it, you're basically at level 40. Like, it has all like the big cutscenes and stuff, and you have to fight orcs at the end. Like, all that stuff like is all like really tailored story content, it feels. And then once you get out of that, you unlock all these quest lines that you can follow that start unlocking all these other missions that, like, I'm still unlocking them. I think I'm a little further along than you are.
Yeah.
That, like, they are fucking hard. And they feel kind of like old Destiny missions in that, like, there's not a lot of story to them, and they're more focused around these encounters. But that's, like, fine, because they're also smaller missions that it's, like, there's, like, 3 or 4, like, really tough fights, and then you're done, and they take, like, 15 minutes to finish. But, like, I've been having a lot of fun doing those, because it's, like, I did one last night that was probably the hardest mission I've ever done in Destiny. Like, I think I had to be light level 260 to do it. It was, like, fucking ridiculous. Like, the Taken enemies are, like, infuriating to fight in kind of the best way because they all have like these really dynamic, interesting abilities that are just like fucking terrifying to come up against sometimes. Like fighting the Taken captains who can shoot that ball at you that like blacks out your vision. I'm like scared of fighting those dudes because it's like it's intense because you're in the middle. Because Destiny has always had, if you're playing on like a slightly harder difficulty, Destiny has always been an incredibly intense first-person shooter. That it's like then when you throw in all these enemies that have these really dynamic abilities that like work off of each other in really interesting ways, it can make the game just like I just have to take a break and like back away and like just like zone out for like 5 minutes because like when I finished that mission, like I was fucking exhausted. I had to just fall asleep immediately because I was like just physically drained from the experience of playing it.
Absolutely. There's an earlier mission like that that's on Venus. It's one of the first ones you unlock like that was so tough. I had to try it like 3 separate times and just go do other stuff in the middle to try to level up. But there's some game design decisions in here that are so smart. Like the Taken as an enemy is such a good idea because what it means is you're constantly encountering enemies from all the 4 enemy types.
Yeah, like mixed together and like remixed themselves, and then the way that because you could sometimes have encounters where you're fighting like the Cabal and the Vex at the same time, but they would be fighting each other at the same also. So now you can have like you can be fighting a fallen captain, like a Taken captain from the Fallen faction, and a Taken wizard from the Hive, and they will be working together to kill the fucking shit out of you, and they will probably kill the fucking shit out of you.
Yes, it's really challenging, but so rewarding. Some of those it feels like playing Halo on Legendary.
Yeah, it definitely is that sort of same like on the edge of your seat. Like any mistake I make could kill me, but there's also like so many different ways I can approach the situation.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So. I mean, that endgame is so vast, and when you add it into all the other stuff they already had, like Prison of Elders, which they added with House of Wolves, and you have the raids, of which there is a new one that people just beat for the first time, and you've got 3 raids now, and you've got the other stuff that was already there. You've got the expanded Strike playlist.
So you've
got
like the
all of the Crucible,
which I haven't even touched yet.
I haven't touched yet, and I want to. I really like Destiny Crucible stuff, and I'm sure it's even better now. But I don't, and I'm excited that like. I could conceivably continue playing Destiny for as long as I want and really not get tired of it, because I don't know, at this point, I don't know how you would get tired of Destiny. Yeah. Because there's so many ways to play it within itself now.
Yeah.
And that's so cool to be able to say, because once upon a time last year, I did get tired of Destiny. Mm-hmm. I got really tired of it, and I didn't come back until really around the time of Expansion 2. So
yeah, like I was kind of the same way. Like I dipped in a little bit for Dark Below, and then kind of like just sort of like see what it was like. Backed out, came back for House of Wolves, played a lot with House of Wolves.
Yep.
And then now like this hit, and it's like it's been a while since I've had this much like raw fun playing a game. Like it wasn't like the last time I felt like this was like in the early moments of MGS5 when I didn't realize how fucked the rest of that game was. It's just like I was having so much fun playing. Like I just want to play it. Like I just want to get in there. I want to shoot things in their fucking face. I want to throw like my crazy firewall grenade that I have, because all like the subclasses are the new subclasses.
So
are
we
also
have to talk about
awesome.
them.
Yeah,
they're so good.
Who are you playing as?
I'm playing as my Titan.
Right. So you have the crazy hammer one.
Yeah. Well, something I want to say before I get into subclass stuff is I did start a new character just so I could test out the Destiny 2.0 stuff. Ultimately, I was really happy with that decision just because it made the transition into the new weapon grind easier and all that. But also, like, once I got that subclass and all this new stuff to do, I had been planning, like, I'm going to go back and take my Warlock and do more with this. And then I was like, I probably will one day, but for now, I like the Titan class so much, and I've been given so much to work with, I don't want to step away from this. And that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you get that subclass, and mine is the Flaming Thor Hammer. And you just get that, and the way they introduce it, where you have all these waves of enemies and, like, infinite superpower, it's so cool.
It is the best way to learn your new powers.
Yes.
Yeah, they just, like, your super bar just fills up basically instantly, and here's, like, all these fucking enemies that normally you would be fucked in this situation, but just go for it, man. Yeah, it's really cool.
And I was kind of wondering when I booted up the expansion for the first time, I looked at that subclass slot, and I'm like, oh, they didn't add the third one yet. I wonder when we'll get that. I didn't think it was going to be part of story, because that's just not how Destiny used to do stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But then it becomes part of this really compelling little storyline, and you get it, and then you're so incensed to go back in and be like, yes, I want to do this. This is so fun. And like I used my flaming hammer to defeat Oryx at the end, and as he's charging at me, and I felt like Thor. I felt like the god of fire or something.
Yeah, I basically did the same thing where I'm playing as my hunter, and you get like your super is a void bow.
Yep.
That thing's pretty cool because that's like what that one does is that because it's interesting because it's kind of the void class for the hunter is basically like the support class because the hunter is the only one that didn't have that originally, but it's also like a little more aggressive. That void bow, if you hit a target with it, it does a lot of damage, but then it also tethers other enemies and slows them down and makes it so that they basically can't attack. But then you can modify it so that then damage is shared between every enemy that is tethered, and then when they die, they explode.
Yep.
Which makes it so that if you use, like, if I use my super in a strike in concert with, like, another person using their super, it is the most devastating thing, because you can have, like, 6 different enemies that are all really tough that have those yellow health bars. They can spawn in all at the same time. This happened to me on one of the strikes where I immediately used my super on them, hit one of them, tethered all the others together, and then the warlock in our party used his super, where that's like the crazy, like, fucking Darth Sidious lightning hands.
I love it.
And hit them, and it was like, hit them for like 1 second, and since all the damage was shared and they all explode when they died, like, everything, like, my screen just went like purple and white, because everything just exploded in this, like, void fucking black hole mist. It's the coolest fucking thing. Like, and all the powers, I feel like they're not necessarily unbalanced, but they all sort of like take the familiar aspects of Destiny's gameplay and give you like kind of weirder grenades and weirder melee powers and like things that work in concert in very distinct ways.
They're so great, and I think they fixed some of the issues that the supers and that whole system had in the original version of Destiny.
Yeah.
Like, the Hunter had shit supers in the original version of Destiny. Now the Hunter has an awesome super.
Yeah, that's like a really different super. That it's not just like you do a bunch of damage. It's like you do damage, but you also like modify the way that all the enemies take damage.
Right.
And are able to like do this interesting AoE attack.
Yep, and like, you know, the Titan used to have this way overpowered super, but now I feel like the other classes have supers that could go toe-to-toe with that.
Yeah.
If they had to. Like, that lightning thing. I love playing with warlocks now, and eventually I'm going to have to get that myself.
Yeah.
It's just so cool to see. But yeah, it's like, I am so excited to have all my 3 subclasses leveled up so I could switch between them.
Yeah.
Because now that you have all 3, which means you have all 3 kinds of damage.
Yeah.
And now I can really see, like, here are the 3 distinct circumstances when I would use these things from my Titan or my Warlock. And I would love to be able to, like, I'm incentivized to now move in and level all that up, and that's a long stretch of endgame that I can play with and have fun with.
Yeah. And I'm just happy because the Hunter's new subclass, the melee ability is basically a second grenade. It's like you throw a smoke bomb, and you can upgrade it so that when like the smoke bomb hits near you or one of your allies, you turn invisible. So now I can finally just like, if I'm in a bunch of shit, I can just look at the ground and go like, ha! And throw the smoke bomb and disappear in a cloud of smoke. And just like pop up behind them with my fucking void sword and just smack them down.
Yeah, my brother plays a hunter, and we were playing together, and he showed me all that, and it was a ton of fun. Yeah,
because it's also like actually the best part about that power is the fact that you can make other people invisible with it, so that like with one of the strikes, you know, you have to move those like power cores to like unlock a door or whatever, and the guy was getting hit. And I just, like, instead of doing the normal thing and just trying to shoot the people shooting him, it's like, no, I can just make you invisible for, like, 5 seconds, dude. It's really cool.
Yeah. There's so much cool stuff, and it feels like, you know, if you're starting Destiny now or you're coming back to it, there's something for every possible playstyle.
Yeah, definitely.
It really accounts for that. And I think that, like, I played this game in the wrong order because Titan is totally what I think the playstyle I always wanted to use, and now I have it, and I'm so happy. But I could also happily go back to the Hunter or the Warlock and have fun with those guys, and it's just a blast. It really is. So, you know, the changes, now we really also get a better sense of, like, the new light system and level system. So you get to level 40, it's very easy, you level fucking fast.
Yeah.
It feels like it's the first 40 levels of, like, a 100-level system or something when you're going through it. But it caps at level 40, but then you don't feel at all like a sense of progress getting stopped, which is what you felt if you got to light level 34, let's say, in the old ones. It's like, well, what else do I do? Okay, I'm done with that.
Or even, I would say, like, when you hit light, like level 20 at original Destiny, there's, like, that moment of, like, what is my light level? Like, what is even happening there? Because the game never explained that system at all. Yeah.
But now the light system, as we explained last week, is just an aggregate of all your weapon and defense stats.
Yeah.
And that's so much fun to see that go up, and you move through so many weapons and armor sets. You have so many more armor things to account for. The guns, as you say, are super creative and fun to use, and so it's this constant sense of renewability to it. It's always keeping you on your toes, because sometimes you might get a blue gun that's better than your purple gun, which is weird, and you have to like reteach yourself how to think about that.
Yeah, I also like that you can, if you have a piece of gear that you really, really like, you can feed basically, like, so if like I have my purple gun that I really love because it has like a cool scope on it or something. If I get a blue gun that like technically has more damage, I can just like feed that gun to my purple gun, and then my purple gun just has higher damage.
How do you do that?
You go in and hit the thing that says like, I think it's called infusion or something. It's in like the weapon customization menu.
Oh wow, I hadn't even looked at that yet.
Yeah, you should probably be doing that. Like I've been feeding a lot of shit to my cool sword.
That's awesome.
So I have an even cooler sword.
There's a sword?
Yeah, it's a new heavy weapon.
Oh, wow, cool. Yeah, I haven't gotten that yet.
Yeah.
Once again, Destiny still explains absolutely nothing to you.
Yeah.
But whatever, it's cool. Now I'm excited to go use that system.
Yeah, like half the shit on the Dreadnought, like I have no idea what any of that stuff is. Like there's all these chests scattered around that you need keys to unlock. That's called like the key of the Wormling. And I'm like, I don't know anything about what this is. But it's not necessarily in like a frustrating way. It's more in a like, I'm not there yet. Like, this is not something, it's just like, this is like, I don't need to worry about this chest right now. I am still, like, gearing up. I'm gonna do other stuff. And, like, eventually, the great tapestry that is Destiny will make sense someday.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, it's like, a year ago I felt left out because I really couldn't participate in the raid, and there weren't those clear online communities set up yet where you could go find a party, and so I got to the end game and I'm like, I feel really left out. And now it's like, I probably won't play this raid either, and I don't care. There's so much else I can do.
Yeah, you don't need to. Yeah. There's more than enough content to like play the game, mostly solo or with like one or two other people. That you can. There's more than enough.
Yeah, for however you want to play it. Like, I think you also they've done enough with Crucible that if you're a big Crucible player, you could have been focusing on that pretty much all week and having a blast with it, I'm guessing. Yeah. Because there's a lot of Crucible quests and stuff I've gotten too. Yeah,
I've been looking at that like Crucible, like daily Crucible mission that gives you 15 Vanguard marks, and like, I want to play you. But I have other stuff that I'd be doing also.
Yes, but I like that Destiny is a game now that, here's what I'll say. This is kind of getting to my final statement on it, but so we were there with Destiny from day fucking one. We were in the alpha. We were always there with this game.
Yeah, we were there before day one, technically, if you're counting the alpha stuff. Yeah.
Right. So we've been there from the beginning, and this is a game I think I speak for both of us when I say we've always desperately wanted to love so much.
I would say that I have loved it.
I have loved it,
yeah,
but
I've loved it, but I wanted to love it unconditionally.
That's what I was going to say. That's it. I've never not loved playing Destiny, but as you say, there's those conditions to it.
Yeah.
I've wanted to love it unconditionally, and now a year later we're at the point where this is the kind of love I want to have for this game. And I think this is Bungie's vision, where this is a game I will happily return to for as long as I want to. Yeah. It's a game I can happily put back on the shelf when I'm playing Fallout 4 or something.
Yeah.
But then when Fallout 4 is done, you know what? I'm going to be pretty excited to go back to Destiny on a rainy day and just play that. Or if I need to cool off for a couple hours, go play some Destiny. And I'm sure they'll expand on it more. They'll have more cool stuff and updates. But now, like, the foundation and what the game is could not be more satisfying.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like Destiny is at that place now where they have been trying to get it, which is that I don't think Destiny is designed to be like World of Warcraft in the sense that it's not designed to be a game that is played infinitely. Or like, because World of Warcraft has like a subscription service and all this stuff. Like, that game you are meant to, they want you, and it is designed to be played constantly, to the point where like people have literally ruined their lives playing World of Warcraft because of like the way that it incentivizes you to play it all the time, ruins people's lives. Destiny is like, it has some of those elements to it, but it's like, it's a game that's meant to be played infinitely with breaks. And I feel like that's where they are now. That's like, I can play a lot, and when I'm kind of tired with it and I have other stuff to do, you're right. Yeah, I can put it on the shelf, and I can do other stuff, and when I want to come back to it, I can come back to it, and there'll probably be new stuff to do. Like, I'm curious to see if they're going to like be updating the game with like quests and stuff like that, which I imagine, hopefully they will, because it's like that system is very well designed to accommodate something like that. And so it's like, when I want to play more Destiny, I can play more Destiny, and when I feel burned out on it, which I eventually will, like, I don't have to, like, I won't feel bad about putting it away the way that, like, everything about the end of playing Destiny for the first time, I think for both of us, just felt bad. Like, it's just like, It's like, I want to play more of you, and I hate playing more of you, and I can't deal with this. I need to put you away. Like, that's how, like, my first tryst with Destiny ended, and now it's just like, I'm just having fun. And I can keep on having fun. It doesn't have to be a constant thing, but when it happens, it can happen, and that's fun.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm sure we'll have more thoughts to share on the Taken King in the weeks to come as we uncover more of the game. I like that it can be an ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
But for now, let's move from one thing that is super fun to another thing that was really a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
The Magician's Apprentice, the Series 9 premiere for Doctor Who.
Yes.
You're not going to do your Doctor Who anymore?
We've moved past that. That's like fucking 2 seasons, 3 seasons ago.
You did it for a long time, Sean.
It hurt for a long time, Jonathan.
Alright, so Doctor Who, Series 9.
Doctor Who!
There you go, Sean.
Yeah, there we go.
Alright.
I did it just for you.
Thank you, Sean. That made me happy, but man, this episode made me happy. And part of it is just when Doctor Who comes back, you want to be happy.
There's a certain joy associated with the show that you can't escape.
But I'll say this, last year where we were at this point in the year we were talking about Deep Breath, which was a very conflicted kind of thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I think it was a hugely flawed way to introduce the 12th Doctor and that season. And it was, frankly having to do the thing where Clara gets metaphorically bopped on the head and becomes a different character. And, we went on to love Series 8.
Yes.
Even if it ended on a wet fart with Death in Heaven.
Sure, yeah.
Which...
That's the beauty of Doctor Who, man, is that, that shit can't ruin the show.
I'll say this, though. I rewatched Death in Heaven. Certain things I liked a little more about it. I appreciated more what Michelle Gomez was doing as Missy, even if I realized this is Stephen Moffat's writing, it's not her.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
As I think The Magician's Apprentice proved, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. That's an episode that's really bad with a fucking phenomenal ending. That last scene between the Doctor and Clara is as good as it gets. Mm-hmm. And I can't think of another episode of Doctor Who that is that divergent in a good scene and a bad scene.
Yeah, it's also like, I feel like it's usually the other way around with Doctor Who. Usually it's like the episode is really good, and then you get to the ending. Like, Kill the Moon is probably like maybe the best example, where it's like you get to the ending and you're just like, this is the fucking most atrocious way you could have possibly ended this story. Like, this is just obscenely bad. Like, usually it's so rare that it's like the episode's just kind of and then you get to the end, it's like, that was a really remarkable ending. Like, that was like, it was precise, concise, like everything that ending needed to do, it did efficiently and perfectly.
Yeah.
Almost never happens.
Almost never happens. But anyway, let's talk about The Magician's Apprentice. Sounds like I liked it a little more.
Yeah.
So let me talk about it really quick. One thing, I have a couple of little quibbles with it. Like, I don't think it's perfect or anything. Not that I need Doctor Who to be perfect every week. But overall, like, I think it's just such an energized way to introduce things. It's having so much fun with itself and asking the audience to have so much fun. And above all, I think it does something that Doctor Who has struggled with in the last couple seasons, that it definitely got better with in Series 8, but Stephen Moffat in his scripts would still struggle with, which is pacing. Mm-hmm. This is the first of a two-parter, and unlike some of the other Stephen Moffat episodes, where even when he has 2 episodes, he'll do something weird where, like, nothing really happens in Dark Water, and then in Death in Heaven, 5 episodes worth of material happen, and none of it's good.
Yeah, or like one part, this may happen with this, who knows? We'll need to see. But like the first part and the second part kind of have nothing to do with each other. Like every once in a while you get one of those where like, you kind of forget when you try to think about it that they were even episodes that were ever connected. It's just like, they're completely, I mean actually, like the 2-part at the end of the last season was basically like that, where it's like the first half and the second half are kind of completely different episodes.
Yeah. But this one I thought, like, I didn't even realize it was about to end when it ended. It was like, I had no idea 45 minutes had gone by, but then I went back and watched a couple scenes again, and one of the things I'm really impressed about with this episode, and the scenes I love, because I think there's some fucking standout scenes in this, they breathe. They breathe in a way that Doctor Who 2-parters should be able to do, and like Doctor Who classic stories at their best are able to do. Like that fine line between filler and good pacing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yes, this is breathing. Like, I think the opening scene with the kid in the field is a great opening. Because you're slowly like, what are we watching? Where are we?
It's like, is this even Doctor Who, or am I watching something else?
Yeah, and then you first hear Peter Capaldi off screen.
Yeah.
And I love that you can kind of see the ways in which his Doctor has evolved a little bit. Slightly less cantankerous in this scene. He's out, helping this kid. And then they drop the Davros thing.
Yeah.
And holy shit, that's just a great opening.
Yeah.
Drop the mic, we're going to go to the opening credits. And then we don't see Peter Capaldi again for 20 minutes. But those 20 minutes, I think, are pretty good. There's a hiccup that I want to talk about. But, like, I love the stuff with Clara. I think It's funny that she's just walking over everyone at unit. It really doesn't make sense, but frankly, Jenna Coleman has that personality.
Yeah.
So whatever. And then they brought back Missy, and I was like, am I going to hate this? Am I going to hate... No! Michelle Gomez is doing a really good job.
Sure, yeah.
I think Stephen Moffat wrote the right line between menacing and funny, where she's not just the Joker.
Yeah.
She I can actually believe this character has a connection to the Doctor. I thought they had some interesting ideas there. Contrasting her with Clara, which actually that was the best idea, because she and Jenna Coleman don't share any scenes in Death in Heaven.
Yeah.
Really, unless the Doctor's there, and really that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think their chemistry is actually really interesting, because as both people who care about the Doctor in wildly divergent ways, and I think coming and honing in on that in a way Death in Heaven tried to, but from a better angle here.
Yeah.
And just the character is calmer, and they, again, because those scenes breathe, which they did not in her last episode, that performance gets to breathe, and I think she was a lot of fun here. And then you get to the stuff with the Doctor, and he's playing the electric guitar.
Yes.
And that scene is just phenomenal in so many ways. You get to the Davros stuff. Whoever they have playing him, is that like the guy who's always played him, or someone
There
new?
have been like 6 different people who have played Davros.
Whoever did it here was great.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah,
They're really fucking good.
Like everybody who has ever played Davros has always been really good, and they've always seemed like the exact same person somehow.
Nice.
Like they just keep on finding the exact right person. There's some like lineage of Davros actors that's just like can somehow give the exact same performance like 20 years apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then you get all of that, and I think throughout that, Peter Capaldi is the glue that holds this all together. Because I think I like the specific theme, Stephen Moffat is going for here, building off something like Genesis of the Daleks, but in this new context where the Doctor has lived a lot longer at this point. And I think that specific level of shame he's trying to deal with, Peter Capaldi just plays so well. And then I love the ending, too, where you get through, and of course we know Clara and Missy aren't dead. And the TARDIS isn't gone.
They're totally dead. I saw they got exterminated, man. There's no way.
But
they're definitely dead.
It's still cool to cut back to that scene that we've seen recontextualized a couple times already, and now it's the Doctor willing to just kind of go psycho on this kid.
Or is he?
And then I really do want to see next week. Like, it's a two-parter that pushes you into next week, and I'm not saying I know next week is going to be good, but it's got a propulsion to it that is really good. Like, I really want to see what happens next week.
He's going to shoot the kid, and then he's going to hop in the TARDIS and fly away.
Yeah.
It's a 5-minute episode.
And I just thought this was a good foundation, and I think another thing I would say is that, like, Stephen Moffat, so much of what he's written for the last couple years of Doctor Who have been, like, the big arc stories. And I think he's not all that good at that.
Yeah.
But when he gets to just write a one-off thing, like Last Christmas, that's a pretty good episode.
Yeah.
Day of the Doctor, the parts that are arc-heavy are rough, but as just its own special, it's really fun.
Yeah.
Or, a couple years ago, Bells of St. John, I liked that one. He wrote that one. Just the one-off ones I like. And this feels like it is a premiere. It's big, but it doesn't feel like it's trying to set up a season. It feels like it's trying to tell a 2-hour story. We saw hour 1, and he's telling a good 2-hour story. Hopefully it holds up next week. But I like Stephen Moffat in this mode, where he gets to be big, but with some self-imposed constraints. And I like that. I hope he's learned some lessons. But anyway, that's my take. What's your take?
Yeah, like, for me, there's a lot of stuff in the episode that I really, really like. Like, Peter Capaldi, as always, is amazing as the Doctor. And I do like that the episode, like, sort of pulls back from him in an interesting way. That it's like, you're not, like, with the Doctor for most of the episode. So when he does come in playing electric guitar on a tank in the middle of 12th century Essex, it's pretty fucking good. It's pretty satisfying. Like, that scene is pretty amazing. And I do like... although it can be a little bit confusing if you've watched as much Doctor Who as me, I do like them going back to, like, Davros. Like, I have no idea, like where Davros is. Like it's something that's confusing about the show when you're trying to reference the classic stuff this heavily. Of like, Skaro got blown up and stuff like that. That's like, it's hard for me to understand. Like, are you just ignoring that? Is that something you're going to address? Is this before that has happened somehow?
I just love how willing Stephen Moffat is to also, and he's done this before, just flat out ignore New Who too. Like, this does not honor whatever happened to Davros at the end of series 4.
I was trying so hard to like remember what happened to, because the last time we saw Davros is the only time. I find it amazing that New Who has had this restraint. They've only used Davros once, and that was in the end of the season 4 finale. It was like, I think he died, right? He died.
Yeah, I think he died.
Yeah, he must have died. I don't remember the entire circumstances of it.
The Dr. Donna blows everything up, right?
Yeah, I mean, that fucking whole season finale is so, in the tradition of Doctor Who season finales, is so packed with story that it's so hard to remember anything that fucking happened in it. But I feel like he died, so I don't know. Like, it's also stuff like, I don't know the state of, like, Davros and his relationship with the Daleks right now, because for most of Doctor Who's history, the Daleks have, like, there's been a large faction of Daleks that are actually fighting against Davros that I think was a part of that season 4 finale. I don't really remember. It's like, that stuff makes it kind of confusing for me that it's like, I have to take a step back and let it go and just be like, we don't need to explain how Skaro is here. Like, Skaro is, like, they had Skaro in Asylum of the Daleks, which is one of my problems with this episode is, like, we need to back off Dalek shit. Like, the Daleks are, like, I'm glad that they have Davros here, and, like, Davros definitely, like, recontextualizes it, and, like, I really like Davros as a character, but it is something where it's like, man, we need to take a year off from Daleks with the show.
Well, it's the thing that I think we said with Into the Dalek last year, too, which is, if you did less Dalek shit, these good Dalek episodes, I'd have no problem with.
Yeah.
If we hadn't had, like, in Series 3, all those other fucking Dalek episodes, or in not Series 3, like Series 2, 3, 4, all of these, then the ones that Stephen Moffat has done in his run, which are generally pretty good, I don't think I'd worry about as much.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Because it is something where it's like, because Season 7, the season premiere, was a Dalek episode, and now Season 9 is again. It's like, there is a fatigue there that's not necessarily this episode's fault, but it's kind of hard to step away from. I guess that's where I would say my full stance is on the episode. That I think a lot of the stuff in the episode is really good, and I enjoyed it, but there is an overall fatigue for me, not just with the Daleks, but also with Stephen Moffat's style of writing. I feel like he has become very predictable as a writer, that, like, his style is so defined now, and the way of just, like, the thing where it's like the plane stops in the air, and you're like, this is like, it's just like, I feel like, okay, this is a Stephen Moffat story. Like, you don't even need to put his, like, writer credit on there. It's like there's certain decisions he makes and, like, ways that characters react to things and ways that characters talk. Like, that scene, I think it was, like, probably the best example of, like, Stephen Moffat's writing of, like, how, like, you know, it can be very good, but when you get too much of it, it's just, like, kind of annoying, is when the Doctor has that, like, look on his face once he, like, the snake dude gives him the sonic screwdriver, and Missy's like, what's that look on your face? I've never seen that before. And Clara's like, shame. You feel ashamed. And I was like, I feel like I have seen this exact exchange, like Mad Lib's version, in every single Stephen Moffat episode ever. Like,
it's a good
point. The words are different, but, like, the dynamic of this, like, these three lines has been repeated ad nauseum with his writing. There's something that's like, I really hope he steps down as showrunner, like, soon, because it is something that, like, and it's, again, it's the thing with, like, Doctor Who that, like, that does not make this a bad episode, and it's something that, like, most of the season is not even going to have that problem because he's not writing all the episodes, obviously. But it is something that, like, I am kind of getting tired of. Like, it's not even just the overcomplicated plot lines that were, like, a really severe problem for a while. Now it's just even, like, the details of how he constructs the story and, like, the ideas he comes up with are so... He's trying to be so unpredictable that it's completely predictable. Like, he's trying to be so, like, fun and whimsical. Like, the planes don't just stop in the sky, but this plane stopped. And it's, like, the way that that's presented, it's so Stephen Moffat-y that, like... again, it's just like it's a fatigue, and I don't want to come off sounding too negative because I do think the episode's very good overall. But there was that sense of it throughout for me of just like I could not escape from that feeling.
It is tough to know what to say about Stephen Moffat at this point. It's like I'm never going to say he did more bad for Doctor Who than good. He's been a good force for Doctor Who. I'm so glad the show found him and he found the show. All of that, but it's weird, as you say. There's the potential for fatigue. As I've said, I've in recent years probably disliked more of his episodes than liked them. I very much liked this one, but I see where you're coming from, and I also just wonder how much gas is left in that particular tank. That being said, he's really good at the other half of his job, which is corralling writers and getting average episode quality up. I think if you look at the average non-showrunner written episode quality, it's way higher in the Moffat era than it was for Russell T Davies.
I would agree with that for sure.
And that's a really key skill that whoever replaces him will also have to have, and it's a tough thing that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah.
So
then it's also, but then like the other problem with it is that then it's like the arc plot heavy episodes are like feel really dull and predictable. There's just a certain sense of like I guess it's like maybe like part of my problem is that like the Doctor has changed, but like And Series 8 did have like a lot of evolution, but it's like I want like there's an extra step that needs to happen that I think it's like the showrunner needs to change. Of like the heart of Doctor Who as a show is that it evolves. The hearts, maybe I should say, to be totally appropriate, is that the show evolves and reinvents itself constantly. And the main mechanism it does that for is by regenerating the Doctor character. But that also, like, the Doctor regenerating is just like half of the process, and the other half is stuff that you do not see happen, which is all the people behind the scenes making the show filter out, and like new people come in, and that has obviously happened over the course for like fucking 60, 70 years now, or 50 years now.
Yeah.
That like I definitely am getting that sense of like it's just like the way the show is. I feel like I really hope that it changes because it's something that I don't want. Like I don't want him to stick around for longer than Peter Capaldi. Like if that happens, I think that will be a big problem.
And I don't think he will.
Yeah, I don't think he will either. But it's like it's something I'm kind of worried about. Is like I need. It was the same thing of like when Amy and Rory would not leave. Of like. Matt Smith needs another companion. Like, we can't have this Doctor go out the door only having these two companions. And it's like, that kind of ended up happening because then, like, you get Clara and, like, that situation's so messy that it's like, I want Peter Capaldi to have, like, a new creative team behind him to sort of, like, reinvent that, like, whole side of the show. But it is something that, like, to give Stephen Moffat credit, it is something that when the Doctor comes out on a tank playing electric guitar, like those moments do not feel like a Stephen Moffat. Like those moments feel very unique and like something that I've never really seen the show do before, and a side of the character that feels like the Doctor to me, but it also feels like very much this Doctor and something that like you would not have seen. Like you maybe would have seen the scene with other Doctors, but it would not have felt this way. And like he's able to pull out some of those smaller moments very well. It is when he's trying to do the larger plot stuff and the more sort of like very ominous dialogue that he loves to do, that side of it is where it gets very predictable and kind of samey.
And I totally agree. I think this episode was just weighted more towards the kind of things he does well now.
Sure,
like even those fatigued elements, I kind of think like the plane thing, he used it for the exact amount of time, and then we got past it.
Sure, yeah.
Like it was used to introduce Missy. That's fine. I don't know how she's still alive. I don't really care either.
Don't need the Master has died several times without us having any fucking idea how he's come back.
And in Death in Heaven, it's very clear she doesn't die.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't get disintegrated. She gets transported, and that's obvious in the animation. So whatever, it's fine. But like, yeah. So I think it moves well. He does, and what he's always done well is the character stuff. Having a specific voice for this Doctor, for this companion.
Yeah.
It's almost like I feel like that first couple episodes with Clara. Before she became the Clara we know and love.
Yeah.
That's such an anomaly for Stephen Moffat. Because
Yeah.
that's what he's really good at. And he wasn't good at that for 8 episodes.
Yeah.
And it's a small blip on the radar in the grand scheme of things. But
maybe it was something that like he kind of shot himself in the foot with that one because it's like he had to reinvent that character so many times because of his stupid plot device around Clara that by the time it came around to having actual Clara, he ran out of ideas for the character.
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
I came up with 2 really interesting, fun versions of this character before. I kind of got nothing this time.
Yeah.
So we're just going to kind of make her like that, only more bland? Let's go with that.
We'll have the episode where she thinks the TARDIS is mad at her.
Right, yeah.
That was the zenith of Clara characterization. Yeah. Anyway, no, she's great now. I mean, this is a fun one. We don't actually see a lot of Clara in this episode. But Jenna Coleman, good as always. Her interplay with Peter Capaldi, just so good.
Yeah.
Like, half of what makes the guitar scene is the reaction shots from Jenna Coleman.
Yeah.
I mean, she's great in that one. And then when he brings her down and does the whole spiel, it's just... Peter Capaldi is just having the time of his life in this role. And yet, you can go from that to the stuff where he is... Like, I agree, the line about he's feeling shame, not the best line in the world, but the way he plays that and that idea... Good God, is he great?
Yeah.
And
like,
you
he's
feel
so good.
And you feel the weight, in part because we know the history with Davros and the Daleks and that stuff. But I think even if you were kind of new to this and didn't know who Davros was, you get why that haunts the Doctor. That this is, oh God, he met his greatest enemy as a kid accidentally, and he's frozen. Like, he doesn't really know what to do, and he does the only thing that kind of makes sense. And then it becomes like, that's the good version of the Stephen Moffat thing where something in the future affects the past.
Yeah.
That one works, and I think if we weren't a little fatigued on that, we might be praising it even more.
Yeah. Because it is something, like, maybe we should move into that now. Where, like, it's something that's interesting about the show that I feel like they have, I guess the new Who has not done it a whole lot, but Classic Who did, where you had Genesis of the Daleks, which was a really watermark story. It was the Fourth Doctor's, I want to say, was his fourth story. It was within his first season, and that's when he visits Genesis of the Daleks. He visits Skaro in the past when the Thals and the Khaleds are having their whole war, and he meets Davros, the creator of the Daleks, and sees the moment where the Daleks are sort of like finished, and he has this debate with himself. That's like, it's this really important moment in the show that the show referenced basically every Davros story past that, of where the Fourth Doctor has to have this debate with himself about, it's basically the go back in time and shoot Hitler question of, and they actually have that quote, and they pull that scene.
I love that they honor that and play those scenes.
Yeah, and it's like, and it's just so cool to like, because I love that the first thing is like they pull like a Peter Davison line from his like Resurrection of the Daleks or fucking whichever Davros episode. I cannot remember Dalek episode titles anymore. That whole part of my brain is just like sunk.
If Sean can't do it, no one can.
Yeah, it's so like they're all the same title at some point. But it's like, yeah, I like pulling all those scenes and like dialogue clips and stuff like that. But it is like the Fourth Doctor, and he makes the choice of like, no, I'm not going to shoot Hitler. Basically, it's like, no. If you go back in time and you find a kid, and someone says that like this kid is going to grow up to be like the destroyer of humanity, can you kill him? It's like, is that the right thing to do? And the Doctor makes the choice, no. And I think that's like a defining moment for the show and for the character and for his morality, is that he has to make that choice, no. But I don't think the Doctor he's not fully convinced that was ever the right choice to make. And that's what's interesting about it, is that I feel like you would have a lot of characters that would be like, would either say yes and be like the dark, edgy character, and they would say yes to that question, or they would say no, and they're like the pure, like Superman kind of character that's like, they say no, and they are confident in that no, and that's like, that is absolutely wrong. The Doctor says no, but he constantly doesn't he's never fully convinced that was the right choice to make, and so that's one of the reasons why the show keeps on revisiting it, and I would have the sense that I would eventually get tired of the show constantly going back to this question. But, like, here, nope, like, every time it happens, I still think it's, like, because it's such an interesting internal debate for the show to have about the Doctor and his morality, that, nope, when it comes up here, I'm still, like, I'm fucking completely on board. Like, this is, like, fascinating. Like, Davros is such an awesome character. The Doctor is such an awesome character. And, like, having them philosophically clash is a really important part of the show. That, like, I didn't realize how much I missed Davros until that kid said, I'm Davros. And I was like, yeah! Like, let's get Davros back on the show. Like, let's bring that back. And I think it is interesting that you have the Doctor. Like, it's ambiguous about, like, fully what his decision was. But it feels like his decision was, like, when he saw Davros and realized that Davros was in the fucking minefield, that he decides to leave and not help him. And it's like, he's kind of going back on his decision that he made when he was wearing the long scarf, you know?
Well, I think it's just such a brilliant little inversion of the Doctor Who story trope, which is the Doctor goes around and saves people.
Yeah.
He finds kids in the fields of mine hand things, and he saves them, and he gives the speech about, you've got a 1 in 1,000 chance, but the 1 is what you need to focus on.
Yeah. Another very Stephen Moffat-y, like, kind of roll my eyes, I've heard this 1,000 times speech.
But I thought that was a good, well-done one as the beginning to the season, and I think Capaldi sells a lot. I just want to say that.
He's very good. The speeches are just like, I feel like I've heard this a million times. Like,
but again,
Stephen Moffat does this so much. It's just like, ugh.
He does, but I actually thought the trope was the point in that scene. That this is a very traditional Doctor Who scene, and what's the twist? It's Davros. The Doctor has done this a bajillion times before, but now the kid he's saving is his greatest enemy. I thought it worked because of the context.
Sure, maybe. I think you're maybe giving it a bit too much credit. But
okay. No, I get it. Yeah. But anyway, like the shame line, that's just pure Stephen Moffat, and there's not a different context surrounding it. This was one where it's built, that scene is built on your familiarity with how those things go. So, but it was, anyway, I like all that, yeah.
But it was already, like, this is where my mind is with Doctor Who. I didn't know that the kid was Davros. Somehow I already knew that it was like the Thals and the Khaleds. Do you know how I knew that? Because they were talking about mines. There's no way that this is why this is true, but I made this connection where they're talking about mines, and in the first episode of Genesis of the Daleks, half of that fucking episode, I swear to God, is probably literally like 10 minutes, is fucking Harry, that stupid piece of shit companion that nobody ever remembers. He steps on a goddamn landmine when they land on Skaro, like 5 minutes after landing on Skaro. His dumbass steps on a landmine. That, like, whole episode is about getting him off that landmine without it blowing up. As soon as they were talking about mines, I was like, that memory came back in my head associated with Doctor Who. I was like, this is a crazy battlefield. Is this Skaro? Is this that? And I was like, it totally is. And I totally fucking guessed the twist somehow based on a connection that there's no way, again, there's no way that is somehow what Stephen Moffat was thinking. I just thought it was amazing that it's like, all the fucking, the connections got made. All of it just like lined up perfectly.
Yeah. No, totally.
Yeah.
I get it. That's great. Yeah, I mean, okay, so what else do we have to talk about? I mean, I really do think when this episode is clicking, it's just cooking with gasoline. That scene with the guitar, I think we said, is a highlight. But when he, once he's face to face with Davros, all of that is good.
Yeah. I
like the back and forth with Missy and Clara, where they're at the table under the plane early. I think that's a fun scene. But then also, like, just the way Missy, I like that she's kept in the background of this episode. She's ostensibly helping everyone, and you're just wondering, all right, when is she going to go off?
Yeah.
When is she going to betray the Doctor? How is she going to do it? And then she does it at the exact right moment, and you're like, yep, that's pretty much what was supposed to happen here. I just think there's enough dynamics in play to where it doesn't feel overstuffed, but it does feel like there's constant motion and things to be thinking about, and areas for narrative opportunity. Now, downside to that is, this could really fall apart next week.
Yes.
I don't know. It could also do well. There's precedent for both.
No, like I said, like it's going to be a 5-minute episode. The Doctor shoots Kid Davros. Like everyone, like his friends are dead, and so he's like, "Well, that sucks." And then he gets into the TARDIS and flies off. And then the show is canceled and everything's over. Like I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
Like I did that whole Genesis of the Daleks crazy thing. I just went through that whole logical process. You see how I'm a Doctor Who fucking like savant. I know how this shit goes.
I like the term Doctor Who savant.
Yeah.
It's very true. I think it's very applicable in this case.
I think it is. I don't think it's a good thing, but I think it is.
Yeah. So I mean, what else? What else would you want to talk about with this one?
It's a hard thing to talk about, like the first half of the story, effectively.
I think that's what I was saying at the beginning of the show. We're going to have more to say about these in the second week of the stories.
Yeah.
But I still want to check in if we're recording that week and have things to say. Because they can be fun to talk about on their own. Especially because I do think one of the choices Stephen Moffat made in his run about two-parters is to try to make them a little more distinct.
Yeah.
And, like, this doesn't feel like one of the old Russell T Davies ones where you spent 45 minutes doing nothing, waiting for something to happen, and then it just kind of ended, and you waited till next week and got the good stuff. There was good stuff here.
Yeah.
And hopefully there's good stuff next week. Again, in the Stephen Moffat run, there is precedent for great two-parters and precedent for two-parters with a good first half and a bad second half.
Yes.
And it could easily go either way. I hope it goes the right way.
I mean, I guess, like, one of my concerns is that, like, he played it so hard. Like, he played his hand so hard of, like, shooting Missy and shooting Clara. That's, like, like, the explanations for those, like, of how they're actually alive are going to be dumb. Like, the Missy did something and they're alive, and the TARDIS is obviously not blown up. Although there was, like, a weird moment where, like, when the Daleks are shooting the TARDIS, and, like, cuts to the interior of the TARDIS, and you're like, oh, yeah, like, we haven't been in... Like, there's a weird... It's one of the things that's, like, weird about this episode as a season premiere is that it's, like, you don't go into the TARDIS for the entire episode, And you're, like, removed from the main... Like, I'm not saying these are bad things. It's just, like, unusual things for this as being a season premiere. This is, like, the stakes in the episode are huge, because you ostensibly kill two of the main characters. You bring back, like, this villain that's been gone for a very long time, and you blow up the main vehicle of the show, of which you haven't even entered for the entire episode. Like, it's very weird.
Yeah. But I think it could be good. He's set up big things and done something as good as, like, the Pandorica opens in the Big Bang, and then he set up big things and done the Wedding of River Song. What way will this go?
Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows? This one was fun, though.
I know who knows.
Who knows?
Doctor Who.
Okay. Well, anyway, one other thing to say. So, did you see the news about Jenna Coleman and Doctor Who?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I assumed.
I assumed, too. Yeah. Worth mentioning, she's officially announced, and the BBC has confirmed she's leaving after this season. They're playing it like they're not saying, oh, when is she going to leave this season? We know from trailers and stuff she's in most of it. She shot the whole thing.
Yeah, she's not dead. Like, if they're trying to convince me because I know that she's not going to be in the next season, they're trying to convince me that she died in this episode, fuck you. Like, no.
And if you look at, like, the list of writers for this season, the only ones Moffat wrote alone is the premiere and the finale, the two-parters.
Yeah.
So, and he's not going to let someone else write her exit. So, I assume she's here for the whole season, and then Christmas special will get someone new, or maybe we'll have a one-off Christmas special and then someone new for the next season. But yeah, I'll be sad to see her go. Like, this is definitely, it's so different than Amy and Rory, where it's like, this does not feel like this is a companion who's leaving after kind of wearing out their welcome. I think she will be going out on top, unless this season turns out to be horrible, which I don't think it will be.
Yeah.
So,
or maybe, maybe she did die. Like, maybe, like, the rest of the season, like, takes place before this one, and this is, and, like, he just, like, it's like a Metal Gear Solid 5 thing where the season ends with these episodes again with, like, 5 seconds of new footage.
Okay. Stephen Moffat has made some mistakes on Doctor Who. He's never done anything nearly as stupid as Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah. That would be fucking amazing if that's what it was, though. Like, that'd be like, that's just like you giving up as a storyteller, which is what happened with Metal Gear Solid 5.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, I'm glad, I'm kind of glad to know that she's, the other thing also, how we know she's not leaving, like, at a midway point is casting for another companion didn't leak.
Yeah.
And that would have leaked. So she's here for the long haul this season.
Maybe the Doctor's new companion will just be Davros.
It is interesting to think, though, that, what kind of companion will work with Peter Capaldi next year. And that's all so far off. I've already seen people speculating. Stop. It's like people trying to figure out who the next James Bond will be, or fuck it, the next Doctor Who, which is always also happening. These people still have the roles. Wait.
Yeah, like, it's not stopping yet. Like, we're still, like, on the upswing,
Yes.
Yeah, the momentum's in the positive direction.
Yeah, absolutely. It does feel like that might be a good... If this season really does end with her leaving, and then I know Moffat's writing the Christmas special too, maybe that's a point to say, maybe I'll still work with the show, but I'm going to hang up some of my responsibilities.
Like, I want Stephen Moffat to still, like, come back and write episodes every now and then. Like, it's the same way that I'm kind of disappointed that Russell T Davies has never come back to write, like, an episode here or there. There's, like, I don't want him completely away from Doctor Who, but is, like, his all presence on the show is just, it's fatiguing. It's like, which wouldn't happen with any show.
Yes. Yeah. Well, any show built like Doctor Who is built.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and he's been with it. I mean, this is Series 9, and he was there in Series 1. He wasn't running it at the beginning.
Yeah.
But he's been here all 10 years. And this is the 10th anniversary of that season. So, yeah.
10th anniversary.
Who knows? Maybe he can go write more Moriarty episodes of Sherlock. Just kidding.
Just go write all the crazy psycho villains he wants, just in, like, another direction.
It is funny to me, though, where when he allows the villain room to breathe, as he does with Missy in this episode, and calm her down a little bit, the performance is good. I think the writing's pretty good there. It's like, okay.
Yeah, as long as, because they make it so that she's not obnoxious, because she's not the focus. As soon as that character is, like, the focus of the scene, it's insanely obnoxious.
Yeah. But I think now that I'm seeing this, because a lot of people loved Missy last year, and I don't necessarily begrudge anyone that, because I don't think she's necessarily the thing that's horrible about that. I think there's some horrible scenes written for her. But I do think you could mold an interesting version of having a female master and all this out of this. And this feels much more in that direction. Like, exponentially I enjoyed her more here than I did last time. So.
It's like, I still think it's missing, for me, in my personal relationship with the show, it's missing the crucial element of that, like, she just doesn't feel like the master, like, there's no connective tissue. I mean, and they make some gesturing to that I find interesting, of, like, her relationship with the Doctor being, like, a kind of rivalry, pseudo-friendship thing, which is a big part of the character, but it's like, but I don't feel it the way I did when fucking John Pertwee and Roger Delgado were having a cool sword fight, Like, that was like, we are mortal enemies, but we respect each other, and we've been, like, doing this forever, and you have that relationship. It's like, that felt so well-defined and very clear, and this is like, it feels like you're paying lip service to this thing that, like, you have not fully earned through the character.
No, and part of the problem is how rough the John Sim characterization was, which was our last one.
Yes, that's fair.
He's not getting to start with any sort of clean slate.
Yeah.
But I will say, they made some gestures in a direction of her at least being a more interesting villain and stuff here. Yeah. Like, the scene at that table out in the open where she's like, Clara says, "Why are you nice now?" And she just shoots the dude.
Yeah,
that was a great scene.
And this is actually something I think they did well with the character before as well, is that, like, I just respect their willingness to let her just straight up kill people. Like, that feels like, yes. Like, that's allowing that character to do that. I still wish that she shrunk people the way the old master did, because I thought that was the goofiest way that you could kill people.
And here's the thing. They could totally sell that with her characterization.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was just, like, the best shit, because you just, like, walk in, like, John Pertwee would walk in, and it was like, there'd just be a tiny fucking person on, like, a chair or something. It'd be, like, the worst effect. It's like, the master was here. It's like, yeah, he was.
Before we stop talking about The Magician's Apprentice. I want to give one piece of praise. I'm sure we'll talk about it more next week. I thought this was a brilliantly directed episode of Doctor Who. Just the staging, the special effects, everything I thought was so well done. I thought there were a couple points in Series 8, particularly the premiere and the finale, where I thought the show stretched too far, and I thought the direction was not very good. And I think the direction on New Who has generally been very good, especially under Moffat. Russell T Davies had no money to work with.
Yeah.
But anyway, this was really well done. And so I looked up who did this, and it was Hetty McDonald, and the only other one she's done for the show is Blink. And that does not surprise me, because I would say Blink is probably the best directed episode of New Who, period.
I'm surprised that they've never had her do anything else.
Yeah, this is the first time. So, just good work.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Hope she does more in the future. But anyway, good start to the season. Excited to see where we go with it next week.
One thing I want to say, here's the bone I need to pick, is that, like, okay, a good thing, Snake Dude, I thought Snake Dude was pretty cool overall, especially because you don't know he's Snake Dude until, like, his face just looks weird, and it's like, oh, you have a snake face, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't like how he kept on calling Davros Dark Lord of Skaro. It's like, shut the fuck up, man. He's not the Dark Lord of Skaro. Get your fucking Harry Potter bullshit out of here. He's Davros. He's a man of science. He's a respected leader of the Khaled race. You not call him the Dark Lord of Skaro, you snake piece of shit. Show some goddamn respect. He's goddamn Davros, motherfucker.